Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Now, this is the movie that I've seen the most out of Star Wars. I have literally seen this movie like a large number of times because when I was a lot younger, my mom and I always used to watch this film together. This is like one of the ones that she always has had on, and she was someone who actually introduced me to Star Wars. She introduced me to the original series, being A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. But this is the one she just always casually had on. And I remember always watching it, but I wasn't the biggest fan of this movie because I don't know, it just really didn't interest me for many years. I only like the pirates and stuff, and of course the end with this video will contain spoilers because for at least for the Star Wars movie, I will have spoilers. But when it comes to the TV shows, I try not to have spoilers unless I specifically say it. So yeah, so we had the Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul final fight. That's the parts I was really interested in. I just wasn't that interested in the rest of the movie. So when I finally got a chance to rewatch this movie for this review series, I actually enjoyed this movie a lot more than I did as a kid. Now, is it my favorite movie out the franchise? No. Is it the worst movie out the franchise? Absolutely not. But let's get into the story. So the story of Star Wars The Phantom Menace is that we have Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi who are going out and they're trying to get the Federation to fully join with the Republic, because they're not really fully with the Republic. They keep making stuff harder for the Republic because a lot of them were for the Bacon clans and some of the more powerful people in the entire galaxy, and a lot of them are interested in joining them. So now it's up to Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon to go to a meeting in order to get them to back off, or at worst rejoin with them. Also, Padme is there because she is trying to have a meeting with the Federation, because the Federation want her to join wanted to join their side, but also the Republic wants her to join their side. So they have two different factions trying to get her to join because our planet of Naboo is it's not a part of the Republic at the time. So that's pretty much it for that part. And then obviously Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon get attacked, and they ended up getting caught up with Padme because they're trying to protect her, and their ship gets blasted down to the point where it gets messed up to the point where they have to land at a nearby planet in order to get some repairs, which ultimately happens to be the planet where, of course, Anakin Skywalker lives. And of course, Anakin throughout their time in Tatooine is ultimately helping Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and them in order to fix their ship. And while Qui-Gon is there, he realized that Anakin has a lot of potential in the Force and could potentially become a powerful Jedi. So he tries to get Anakin to join with them, but of course there's one little problem. Anakin at this time is still a slave, so he goes and fight for Anakin's freedom, and Anakin was able to eventually join Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and join the Jedi Order. He of course starts the council. At first Yoda and the others aren't that interested in him because he's too old, and they can sense that he's going to be a pretty dangerous person if he goes down the path of a Jedi, or they just leave him to his devices and somebody else get him and could turn him into a darker character. The Sith Lord. Sorry about that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I mean, there's other stuff like the whole Jar Jar Binks and trying to protect Naboo from the Federation because they keep trying to attack in order to get Padme to join. And then you have just Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon just trying to protect Padme and also just trying to get Anakin to start his training. And that's pretty much the entire film. I mean, there's really nothing. You get the reintroduction to the Sith. Of course, if you've seen the original movie, you know who the Siths are. But of course, we get the Sith Master himself. But in this movie, they don't reveal who that person is. So they constantly stay in shadows. While his apprentice, Darth Maul, is all out in the open. And he's pretty much the main villain for the rest of the movie. And ultimately, there are some parts I like and some parts I really dislike. The parts I really liked about this movie is, of course, the pod racing with Anakin. Some of the best things in Star Wars. Easily some of the best scenes. Anakin was such a great character in that moment. I really loved the relationship between Qui-Gon and Anakin, how that was forming. And you could really see a fatherly bond with Anakin that could have potentially sparked him to become a great Jedi in the future. Of course, you know, you get a little bit of Obi-Wan, but nothing crazy. But we know he continues on for the rest of the franchise, so that's not a big issue in this movie. Of course, Darth Maul is like the most interesting character, but I wish that we could have got more of his backstory. Thankfully, we do get more later on down the line. And of course, that legendary final battle at the end is fantastic. The part I dislike is, of course, the Jar Jar Binks stuff. I don't hate Jar Jar Binks like a lot of people do. A lot of people hate Jar Jar Binks to the point where they bullied his actor. They also bullied the actor that played young Anakin, and it was so ridiculous because they was like, oh, you know, you're a terrible actor, this, that, and third. Why your dialogue is so bad, da, da, da. Even though the dialogue and story was not on them, it was on Jar Jar. Jar Jar. It was on George Lucas. George Lucas wrote the entire script. He filmed everything. He didn't really have a lot of writers in the room like he normally would. Probably like a few, but not really a lot of people who read the script and obviously tell them to change some stuff up or make stuff a little bit more coherent to make it make sense. But again, Jar Jar is not a bad character. It's just his plot line was just kind of not just. It's kind of there. It's like, oh, we want to protect the planet on the move by helping the humans that are there, and obviously they do, yada yada yada, and that's pretty much it. He's also the comedy relief character, but we'll talk more about that in the character portion. But overall, for the story, I mean, that's really it. The story is very, very straightforward. It's just, we gotta protect Padme. Oh, we found this kid. He has a lot of potential. Let's get him to join the Jedi Order. Oh, we still gotta stop the Federation and the rising of the Sith. And of course, this is a movie where the Sith finally gets revealed, and now they know that Sith has returned. And that's pretty much it. Alright, so we're on the character portion. So the first character we're gonna talk about is Qui-Gon Jinn. So Qui-Gon Jinn is the master of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he is also the reason why he was able to find Anakin Skywalker, and is the reason why Anakin will ultimately join the Jedi Order. And throughout the entire movie, his job is just basically just to, you know, be the liaison, the peacemaker between Padme and the Federation, and try to get them to like stop feuding, so this way, you know, Padme can eventually join the Republic. And he just happens to run into Anakin on Tatooine and figure out that he's very high potential with the midichlorians, so he decides to take him. But of course, we know the council had they didn't want him because he's too old and all this other stuff, and they feel like he could become one of the most dangerous person in the universe, in the galaxy, if he's not used correctly, or, you know, going on the path of a Jedi. But ultimately, he tells them to go fuck off, and then he's going to go train them. And of course, he has this iconic battle with himself, Obi-Wan, and Maul. And if you see the movie, you know what happens to him. But he was just such a great character, very charismatic, very funny in his own witty way. And I like that he's not your traditional Jedi. Like, he likes to do things a little bit out of the box, even threatening them, saying, I'm going to train Anakin even if I have to leave the Order. Which we know, of course they didn't want that, because Qui-Gon is such an interesting character. And I wish that we got to see more of him. But I'm pretty sure there's other legends, continuity, other stuff that tells more about his story. And if you watch Tales of the Jedi, we get a little bit more with his story as well. Next one, of course, is going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi is the most important character in this franchise. It's because he will play a huge part for Anakin later on down the line, and even deeper into the entire franchise. But for this first movie, he's not really much of anything. He's just kind of there. He doesn't have really a lot to do, and he does have his little moments. Like, at first, he's not really into Anakin. He does agree with the council, but as he spends more time with Anakin, getting to know him, and of course spending more time with his master Qui-Gon, he started to realize that maybe if they train Anakin properly, he might become a great ally towards the Republic and also the Jedi Order. So he ultimately does lead into it, and of course he has his legendary final fight with Maul,
And if you see the movie, you know what happens between Maul and Obi-Wan. But that's all I can really say about that without spoiling stuff between these two characters any further. But overall, he's an okay character. To me, he becomes a way better character as Episode 2, the TV shows, and other movies will go later on. Next, of course, the main character himself, Anakin Skywalker. So Anakin in this movie is just a little kid. You know, he was raised as a slave on Tatooine. He was always into like mechanic stuff, so he's always building robots, TIE fighters, and all kinds of stuff. He's always building stuff. So because he managed to run into Qui Gon and Obi Wan and Padme, they were able to convince him to like, hey, why don't you come with us? Um, you know, I feel like you're gonna have a big future becoming instead of staying here as a slave. So of course he enters the pod racing, which is one of my favorite scenes of the movie. He ends up winning the race and end up go with Qui Gon, and of course Qui Gon wants to train him because of course his high midichlorian count. So they definitely wanted to make sure like, hey, let's train this kid, let him become a Jedi because he's gonna become very important. But for the most movie, he did fine. Again, I still hate the fact that a lot of people bullied this kid to the point a lot of messed up things happened to him later on down the line. But he did a good job for what he had. Pod racing scenes are great with him. He has a good little dialogue moment, and I really love his relationship with Padme and how that starts to form. But of course, we won't see more about it much later on. And I like his relationship with Qui Gon. It felt like a father and son relationship, even though it's really supposed to be a master and a student. But they really felt like a father and son duo, and I really do like him as a character in this movie. But of course, we'll get to know a lot more of Anakin throughout the rest of the franchise. So next we have, of course, everybody's favorite, Jar Jar Binks. So Jar Jar Binks, I actually don't mind him in this movie. He's not the funniest character, but he's not annoying as I remember him. As a kid, I always thought he was very annoying to say with everybody else. But over the years, he's just an okay character. I feel like they do it way better in other parts of the series. And in this one, he's just okay. He has stupid humor and stuff like that. He has corny lines, but he is the heart of the movie because he's helping out everybody. Of course, he has his plot line with the Gungans versus the Federation, and he helps protect their home, and he does a really good job with doing that, even though he is very clumsy. And he gets a good ending at the end of the movie, and he becomes a huge part for the rest of the franchise. And of course, the last two characters we're going to talk about is Darth Maul. Darth Maul is, of course, the main villain of this movie because, let's say, the Sith Lord is the main Sith Lord in this movie, but I can't spoil who that is quite yet, so I'm not going to say who it is. But if you see these, you already know who it is. But as the apprentice, he does a really good job. He really feels like a threat every time he comes on screen. He doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but I think that's what makes him so cool is that he's not talking a lot. He's just mostly in the shadows. But when he comes out, he really makes a presence. To the point he has one of the most legendary lightsaber battles in the entire franchise. And of course, he has one of the biggest feats in the franchise as well. But he just does a really good job, and I even like a little bit of his relationship with the Sith Lord himself. But of course, you know, we'll see what happens with Maul. That's all I can say about Maul. And the final character we're talking about is Palpatine himself. Not really much of anything in this movie. He just kind of, again, he's just the politician trying to get the Federation to join them. Trying everything he can. He's trying to help out Padme, trying to help out the Jedi's. There's really not really much to him. He's just kind of there. But once he see Anakin, he started to have a really big interest in Anakin because he knows Anakin should play a huge part, not with the Jedi, but he can also try to help him become more of a bigger hand even in the Republic if he needs them. And of course, a guard and stuff like that, other stuff. But outside of that, that's all I can really say about Mr. Palpatine. But overall, like I said, give my quick final thoughts here. I did enjoy the movie for what it is. It is a good film. It's not the best film of the franchise. Like I said, the Power Rangers scenes are still fantastic. The Maul scenes are good. A lot of the scenes with Qui Gon and Anakin are great. There's just so many great little small moments in this movie, and I highly recommend checking this out if you haven't. I will catch you guys in the next review. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe as always, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.